Welcome to the West Lane Schoolhouse. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, we've been unable to offer our usual summer Sunday afternoon open houses, but we do want to share some of what makes this little building so special. Jack Sanders, who has spent many years researching Ridgefield history and now helps oversee this precious building for the Ridgefield Historical Society, will explain some of the schoolhouse's unique features.
This is one of 8 schools of the maybe 15 that Ridgefield had at its peak of one-room schoolhouses that still survive. 4 of them are now used as houses. One is the American Legion Hall, another is the empty Branchville School on Old Branchville Road, and one of them was moved to North Salem, New York to become an artist studio. So this is the only one that's really a public museum, and it's really cool. It was work that was done by the Ridgefield Garden Club and is now being cared for by the Ridgefield Historical Society. This school closed in 1915 when the Benjamin Franklin Grammar School opened on East Ridge. Kids started getting bused from the outline. If you lived down on Lower Silver Spring Road, you probably took a bus. That bus was probably drawn by a horse. It wasn't really a bus like we think of today. It was probably a cart with a roof on it. And they got hauled up to that school. Now, that school is still there today. It's used for offices. There's the school board offices in the annex to that building. It's the Yanity Gym is up there. It still exists. But there were still some one-room schoolhouses going in town until 1939. That's when the last one closed. Of course, kids spent most of the day here, and because of that, they had to have something to drink. They brought their own lunches, but they didn't bring bottles of soda because they didn't have bottles that were good for that back then. So there was a barrel or a bucket of water kept in the schoolhouse. They would dip out their water into a little cup, and they would have something to drink. Whether there was a well here or not, we don't know. We suspect that the water may have come from wells at nearby houses. One of the things that was also part of the schoolhouse on the grounds was an outhouse. You had to have an outhouse, of course. And there was probably also a shed to keep the wood dry throughout the winter and rainy season. You wanted to keep it covered, so most of these schoolhouses have a little shed as well, but those are gone here. One of the interesting things about this building is its curved ceiling. A number of old schoolhouses had these, but only the ones that were more sophisticated. The reason it's curved is it's very good for spreading the voice. It's acoustically a nice feature. And this is acoustically a good building. I can stand in the corner here and talk, and people in the far corner can hear without any problem. Notice the old clock. That's of the type that schoolhouses had in the late 1800s. Over at the right, you'll see some bookshelves with old school books on them. These are books that you can look at, page through, and see examples of the kinds of things that kids used back then. But we'll just take one stop down to the exhibit case down in the cloakroom and look at one of Peter Parley's books. This is our display case, and here's Parley's first book of history. This is an example of some of the pages inside that book, and you'll notice that he uses a lot of maps. All these maps, by the way, are hand-colored. This is a mass-produced book, but they still colored the things by hand. He wanted them to be as bright and interesting to the kids as possible. And you'll see, a fair number of illustrations like this of a railroad. This book is from 1852, and it has many maps and pictures. Here's New England, there's Connecticut. In fact, here's Connecticut, and there's Ridgefield. This is, again, hand-colored, that pink, trying to make it interesting for the kids. The whole text is written with a lively style that kids would enjoy. And we have in our collection the first, second, and third books of history, and some others. This is Charles Goodrich's history, not nearly as lively as his brother's, but it does have nice illustrations.
Thank you for joining us on this visit to the Peter Parley Schoolhouse. We hope to see you in person in the future when we are able to resume open houses. Thank you for supporting the Ridgefield Historical Society.